Welcome to episode 50, Wayne's World and Kelly. How's everybody doing?
Very good. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Special guest today. All month we've been doing Shark Week. Pleased to introduce my friend, Dara Haggerty, partner at Martell Ozim out of Winter Garden, Florida, General Counsel Representation for Associations. Welcome to the show, Dara. How are you?
Thank you. I have a question. Is it Shark Week and that's why you have attorneys on?
It's Shark Month. So just to clarify, within 5 seconds, Wayne made a mistake.
So I'm like, are we circling the water? I didn't know if there was a connection there, so I thought I'd ask.
Last week, our guest, Lisa Magill, actually had a shark shirt on. It was phenomenal, but you look great as well. So, but yeah, the shark represents attorneys. Because it is officially Shark Week on whatever station that is on cable. But yeah, so on the Wayne's World and Kelly, it's Shark Month. And it always will be in July.
Always.
So you're a shark.
Now you just need Snoop Dogg on it, like Snoop Dogg's on Shark Week, and then you really have a show there. Have you ever?
We don't really advocate the anything about.
He's hilarious when you hear him like as the narrator for Shark Week.
I'm impressed that you know that, kind of,
yeah.
And somewhat concerned. So you graduated from law school 12 months ago, and how's it going so far?
I know that's you trying to compliment my age, but I can't lead with that in the industry being a 5-foot blonde girl because, you know, sometimes it's hard for these older gentlemen in these communities to take legal advice from me. But
when when people hear my name, they think I'm a 5'3" blonde hair, blue-eyed girl. So we have that in common.
Yeah,
except for they're hoping for you and they get me. So sorry about that world. 5 foot tall.
Yeah, so I'm a third generation Floridian, and there's not very many of us. I grew up in Tampa, St. Pete, went to law school at Stetson. I've been practicing for 15 years now. And so I'm pretty passionate about Florida. I mean, we are just insane in this state. You know, I love that we kind of make headlines. I went to Europe recently and everyone's just like, oh, Florida, I mean, they all knew us as like being like the crazy state, you know, so we have expectations. So being in this industry, you definitely see everything. It is not a dull moment. Every day we go to work, we have a crazier and crazier story. So
why don't you give us a couple of those, Sarah?
A couple stories. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the one
yesterday,
no, of course. So the one yesterday, hopefully the client doesn't get this podcast, but it's anonymous. There was a vendor on site talking to some of the homeowners, and it happened to be a board member, but it was related to the private property. Okay. I'll just clarify that. And the board member proceeded to go to the car, saw that there were keys in the car, get in the car, move the car, and claim that they were improperly parked. Well, now that's a criminal charge. So,
yeah, theft.
So I'm like, I don't really know how enforcing the declaration means grand theft auto, but that's Florida, you know? And then we get to stand your ground. So then they're like, and then another owner basically said, when you take pictures for violations, since Florida's a stand your ground state, which means, you know, if you go on property, they have the right to shoot you. So then you have, so he literally said, it's a stand your ground state. Next time you come out on my property, I'm going to shoot you. And I'm going to the cops and filing a police report against the association for taking pictures of my home. And the client's all concerned. And I'm like, well, that's not a criminal offense there. There's no criminal charges for taking photos of your home in an HOA. So it blows my mind that people that don't want to be overly regulated and overly monitored choose to purchase property in an HOA. I don't live in an HOA. I will never live in an HOA. And so it's funny because it's like, you have a choice. You can go buy a field and shoot guns and do whatever it is that you want to do. And, you know, have parties out of your RV and keep your boat in the front yard for indefinitely, you know, but they choose to live in these communities, but then they're like so disgruntled by the rules. And so it's pretty interesting.
That's such an important point. Now, first of all, of us in the industry, that's where our livelihood is. We never mentioned that we would never live in an HOA, but it's true. But second of all, I think there should be a class before you ever have the opportunity to even look, like even go online and look at condos or an HOA, and just say, let's just say, listen, you're going to live in a communal property. There are rules and things that you're agreeing to, and you really have to agree to them. And because 90% of the stuff is nuts. So before we move forward, I got to tell you a crazy story that happened to me. That's not really HOA, but it's so darn funny, and it did happen in Florida. I go to Chipotle's a couple of nights ago, and I like to get my rice without the cilantro. So first I make them do that. And so they a lot of them know me. So like, oh, it's you. And they get it, and they bring it back because I don't like the green stuff in my tea. So if you've been to a Chipotle, they have to go down the line, and usually there's two people doing it. I told the girl when she came back with the rice, I said, okay, now put a bunch of cheese in there. She says, you can't do that. Excuse me? What do you mean you can't do that? I said, no, you can do that. I said, the cheese is right over there. Put a ton of cheese on there and push it down, and then we'll come back to the meat. She goes, no, you can't do that. I said, listen, I've been coming here since this place started. Do it. She lays it down, and the other girl picks it up, and she puts the cheese on, and then she refused to put the steak on because she's mad at me because now customer's wrong. Because only in Florida could that actually happen. And this girl was indignant about telling me what I can and cannot have on my, whatever happened. Remember McDonald's? You probably don't because you're too young. Special orders don't upset us. But and that's
Burger King, dude. That's Burger King. That ain't McDonald's. Good.
Oh no,
Lord.
McDonald's with 2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame bun. Sorry,
whatever, old man.
I think to bring it home with what you're saying and to relate it to HOAs, just to get you guys back in the game. I don't think people know what they're fighting for anymore. I don't think people understand what their stance is anymore. What are we arguing about?
Right.
Why is that? I get social media is just feeding the beast when it comes to finding a reason to argue and to put people down. But it's just blowing my mind as to what we're arguing about. And I'm a lawyer and I don't want to argue. I'm tired of arguing.
I'm all about keep the peace.
All but that's three of for example, about girls arguing with you. It's why? Is that your platform of the day? Is the order on which you're going to make your food? Now,
a friend of mine is the chief marketing officer of Chipotle. He is a viewer of our show, so I hope he's watching today. And I almost reached out to him and say, listen, dude, there's something going on in Fort Lauderdale. You need to fix this. But
well, it's Fort Lauderdale. So that South Florida is a totally different segment.
We're not Dade. We're not Miami-Dade.
We do not practice law in that area. We try to stay West Palm. We stay free from West Palm down because you guys are the ones creating all the crazy legislation. That's what's going
all
on
the safety. Miami-Dade and Broward had safety requirements for their condominium buildings for structure for a long time. So there you go.
They did. And there's also a lot of embezzlement stuff going on too. That's not great. Those little bad actors down there. And then I'll go into a meeting and then literally an owner will be accusing the board right out of the gate, has never been to a meeting. It's the first meeting post turnover. And literally an owner will be using the term embezzlement, and I shut it down. And I'm literally we are not leading with that. We represent 450 clients. Not a single one of our clients is embezzling money. Okay. Can we just not what is that doing to help people by speaking inflammatory words out there and just making accusations when you haven't even looked at the books? You just think it's cool to say that word, Now
listen, viewers, I want you to notice just what happened. This is what she tells people right after she accused South Florida of having embezzlers and terrible actors. So don't think that went unnoticed.
But it's not my clients.
Well, you know what? She's right.
Dara, you're frequently in a position where you probably have to arch your eyebrows and say, "It ain't my circus, these ain't my clowns." But in all truth, I was at a I think you and I were at some little mini trade show, and you had led off and were like a featured speaker on education. I know that's passionate for you, and I listened in, and man, you are really good at articulating the information that you want the audience to hear. What are you telling everybody? Is it like civility? Is it manners? I mean, everything is just a you know what show right now. What are you telling everybody out there?
Well, first, I appreciate the compliment, but second, I think as an industry, I think we're getting beat up. I think the vendors are getting beat up. I think the managers are getting beat up. The board members are getting beat up. And I just think that giving people the benefit of the doubt and leading with not you did something wrong, but ask questions so that you really know the answers rather than assuming. And I'm just tired of people trying to act like they're the smartest person in the room when they really don't know what they're talking about. And that doesn't help anyone. And I think that what they don't understand is that these board members, this is a volunteer position. You have people that are working full time that do this after hours. You have people that have retired to Florida that want to go, play pickleball, but instead they're meeting with vendors, and landscapers. And it's just like, I just think that there's like this is my problem is in a court of law, you speak out of turn, you're held in contempt, right? In the legislative process, you get ushered out of there in handcuffs, you can't come back, you're done speaking, right? But there's not really a sense of decorum. And I just wish that there was a little bit more respect for us as professionals where we do this for a living, we take it very seriously. And I just don't like when people come in and just tell everyone that they're not smart and they're doing everything wrong, but they're also not the ones that are willing to volunteer. So then my first question is, well, you don't like the way it's done. The election is next month. Are you running? Oh, no, I don't want to run. And I think that that's where I have a hard time is criticizing the people that do step up to the plate, that really spend that extra time. And I just wish that we would just have some respect for each other, especially for this, because it's not just corporations where people are complaining. It's people that live next to each other, their neighbors, their community. You criticize the board member, that's your next door neighbor, So I wish that there was just a little bit more giving people the respect that they deserve and having some appreciation for how hard people work and show up and really have invested a lot of time and effort for the benefit of everyone as a whole. And I'm tired of the complaining. I think as a society, we're just going down the wrong path of just being complainers and not doers.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very well put.
Thank
you.
Sure. Thank you. And it's like that with everything in every facet, with the elections and everything, if you don't like it, get up and fix it. Have some ideas, but some productive ideas. Let's execute it.
Let's be very clear though. Certain people don't belong on boards. If you have a personal agenda just to stir it up, please stay off the board. Don't run. And if you think you are the smartest person in the world, but nobody else thinks that, maybe you shouldn't be on the board. Know your limitations.
I find that to not be board members. Yeah, I find that to be owners. And I got to tell you, the worst are attorneys. You have attorneys that have never practiced condo HOA law. And then they come out of the woodwork and they're like, and I'm like, well, what did you, I was a criminal lawyer 25 years ago in Illinois. And I'm like, so what makes you think you know anything about condo HOA law, especially
in Miami-Dade? That's what you want.
That's the attorneys that are the worst.
Well, as we're an owner's rep for high-rise condominiums and some associations for redoing clubhouses, and we do set the stage of civility from the get-go. And we have released clients from our services and our contracts when they don't act civil. So, we kind of talk the talk and walk the walk. But I agree with you so much, but these people get out of hand. I mean, we've had in the past where residents or board members have tried to physically accost other people or our employees. And it's like, whoa, this is not going to happen, So it's a great reminder of the crazy world that we live in. But you know, I like to think that, and I've heard you talk, and I've been friends with Wayne for a long time. We come from a servant mentality and we're solution oriented, but you get all these other people just want to run their mouth. It's sad, but there's so many more important things that have to happen that we need to shut that down immediately and control the room. And you know, I know Wayne's really good at that. I mean, he comes in and he's such a big, intimidating guy that usually the room just shuts down as soon as he gets there and just says, "Sir." So don't let the camera fool you.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what I did. I actually did follow Dara's advice back in Minnesota prior to moving here where I lived. I actually joined ran and got on a board, and there was a very contentious issue that needed to be resolved. But Dara, you'll like this. Speaking about the smartest people in the room, all of these old retired folks that were captains of industry just sat on this one particular big issue, and they kept, you know, tabling it. And finally I had enough, and I ran, and I passed. Something got passed that was very controversial. Half the community liked it, half of them didn't, but it got done. I wanted to get something done. And wow, I had half of the people coming up to me afterwards, really saying some pretty choice words to me. And I just looked at them and said, "You don't like it, you do what I do. Go and join the board and make a difference." And then I walk away, right? I mean, so I actually did that, and it does work, to your point, right? If you want change, you be that change, go make the change, or at least try.
I want to make another point. This isn't something new. And I'll tell you, I was just thinking, so I'm a Christian, but I grew up Catholic, and I was an altar boy for years. And when we would finish, we'd stand in the back of the church. And I was up in Northern Virginia, right outside of DC, very smart people. And people would come up and tell the priest where he was wrong when he was speaking. And they'd say, "I'm sorry, that wasn't Leviticus. That was in, you know, Psalms or something." It's like, and it happened all the time. So I think it seems new. And I think maybe we see more of it because of social media. But you know what? People have been jerks forever.
Yeah,
I just want to point that out.
I love that comparison. The difference is that they went after mass, they went and spoke directly to them versus interrupting the mass, raising their hand and making the priest stop what he's doing, confusing, like, where was I? And
Right.
where were you? And you're disrupting that. And then everyone being like, "Yeah, he is wrong. He is wrong." Yeah. That's the difference. It's the mob mentality that pisses me off. I don't mind different opinion. All I do for a living is take on different opinion, but I love that comparison. It's the just brass, just interruption, just standing up, commanding presence of the whole room, shifting gears when the priest is trying to get through this mass. You know, that's where I take a problem with. And it's this mom mentality where it's like, it's so interesting. I mean, I hate to say it, but like, I've never been a sheep, but man, there can be everyone thinks they have these great ideas. Like, you're just a sheep because you're just going along, and you know what I mean? And it's like, can we think about what we're doing? And I don't know why you insulting the board or telling the attorney how incompetent they are in front of everyone is helpful. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's, yeah. And there's been times where I've taken them out of the room where I'm like, "Okay, let's have this conversation outside." And they get so aggressive. And then I just have to be like, agree to disagree. Like, we're not going to do that. I mean, but I have police officers, they have to get off-duty cops, and they have to actually follow me and escort me to my car, because we get death threats. People get aggressive that they literally escort me to my car because the board is all like fearful of my safety. I mean, that's too much, you know. It's one thing to say I don't agree. It's another to say we need a cop to escort me because we're scared someone's going to follow me to my car and accost me about it. And people are just, they're all moving to Florida. Everyone's just a little crazy, you know.
Hey, listen, we're getting a lot of wonderful people moving here too, and there's a lot of great things. Holy smokes!
Oh, I'm ride or die Florida. I'm not going to live anywhere else. I'm committed. This is my state. But
so Dara,
Dawn Miller's a fourth generation Floridian. Just to mention that, the paving lady.
Do you ever
So
follow
Dara,
like on Instagram, like the Florida stuff where it's like only in Florida and you see all the Florida headlines? And
we have only in Dade on Instagram. Only in Dade is priceless. I mean,
only in Dade. Okay, I'll have to look for that
which
one.
is Miami-Dade for the people that live outside the area. It's it's well, some of the stuff it's you don't want to see ever again. I mean, it's one of my favorites recently was a guy riding a motorcycle up 95, and there was a girl sitting on the gas tank facing him and a girl on the back. And they're just going up the road. I mean, what is wrong? You know, safety first, people. You know, it's lunacy.
So Dara, you get out of law school and you're going into this chosen profession. And you know, do you remember what your wake up call was? Or like, oh my God, do I really want to play in this arena or what?
So I'm like everyone else. I fell into it. Okay. No one knows what the heck condo HOA law is. No one even knows what I do when I explain it to them. And I think that's the great. So I got out of law school and I thought I wanted to do medical malpractice defense and liability defense. So I was an insurance defense lawyer, which was really good practice for being a litigation lawyer. And I mean, talk about crazy cases in the medical malpractice liability arena. I mean, you'd come to work and then your buddy would be like, have you seen this case? Go in the file drawer and get out the pictures. You know, I mean, it was crazy.
Pictures of Wayne.
I didn't feel like I was counseling clients. Like there was no counseling clients. I have a degree in psychology and I just didn't feel like I was counseling them. I felt like I was just on the defense and it got kind of just boring with just answering interrogatories and this and that. So the trial practice I didn't love. And then I randomly met a friend through my kid's school who worked for somebody that was well known in the condo HOA industry and really just fell into it. But I think that that's what makes it so cool is that all the community association managers and the vendors, maybe not so much vendors, but at least going into this industry, we are such a community in and of ourselves. And it's just funny because no one grew up saying, I want to be a community association manager or
Right.
I want to be a condo HOA lawyer. No one even knows what it is, you know? So it's like, it's just cool that we're all in this really crazy world together. And people like you, Wayne, like, it's so nice to have just refreshing, down to earth. And we all have such good sense of humor. Because you have
God, we do, man. We have fun. You and I, when we hang and we get everybody together, we have a good time. Good Lord, we laugh.
Best time. I love everyone in this industry. And it's so cool that I'm not just in a courtroom. I'm getting to go to trade shows and hang out and, you know, shoot the breeze with like friends and people that I respect that all bring something different to the table. And we're just really all in this together. So for me, what's interesting is we're trying to create a community with the condo HOA, but we in and of itself, we have created such a strong community as an industry, as vendors and management companies and lobbyists that we work with. And we're all ride or die, man. We're all like thick as thieves, you know?
I love that, ride or die. That is strong. That's a really good way to put it. You know, like I go to where I met you, CEOMC, you know, Mark Anderson and Josh Burkett and all the good work, you know, they do in Tallahassee to represent, you know, the folks that we play in the same arena with. That's a really eclectic and unusual group of folks that get together twice a year, isn't it? God, do we have fun? That's a great group.
Much fun.
You know, Wayne's favorite movies is Thelma and Louise. So
I've never even watched that. I don't even know what the hell that is. I don't even know what it is.
Listen, we made an agreement when we started this show 50 episodes ago that we would never lie on the show. You know that's your favorite movie.
50 episodes 2 weeks ago. We were trying to figure out how many weeks there were in a year before we got on.
We knew. We knew. They're not lying. These people are lying. Well, this show is going to heck in a handbasket. No, but it is true. There is definitely an incredible camaraderie. I mean, the endless guests that Wayne and I invite on the show, we actually have a rule on the show. We don't bring anybody on the show that asks to be on the show. We only invite people that we invite. So it's kind of a neat system that we've stuck to for the last 50 weeks. It's amazing. I don't know if you know this. The average podcast lasts less than 3 episodes. So
really,
yeah, we are breaking records. We're breaking records. Here's, Becker Law. They actually practice in South
you're
Florida.
having fun with it. Well, you're having fun with it. It doesn't have to always be so serious. Like sometimes people get in here and they're just like reciting law, and it's like, okay, they want to know the law, but I got to tell you, they don't want to hear it like that because it's boring as crap sometimes. So you got to make it fun. You got to make it playful and relatable.
Right.
Let's relate things. That's the best way to teach and to get your message across, is to make it fun and relatable and engaging, because there's so much content out there in the world. We're inundated with so much content. We want it to be light and enjoyable and fun.
And when it comes to when the rubber hits the road, I'm sure we're all in agreement. We're very serious about people's money, their safety, their life. That we're really serious about. Come on, do it with a smile. Have fun with it. I very rarely have confrontation because I definitely lead with my humor. And it's really kind of hard when you got these brilliant jokes coming out to try to, break bad on me. I'm also kind of large, so that kind of helps too. But you have to have fun, but we're also extremely serious. I know with your law practice, you didn't go to school to not bring something to the table, but you got to make the table nice, and these people, some people really need a checkup from the neck up, as I used to say in the South, of know where you are. I mean, can you imagine you're living in a high-rise building and you go to this meeting and you're just completely shredding somebody, and then you're on the elevator with them the next day? I mean, is that how you want to live your life? I don't
think they care, dude. I really
Some don't. You're right.
I think we kind of crossed over kind of what like Dara was talking about in the beginning about kind of the craziness and the lack of civility and manners out there. I really don't think most people care anymore. There's really no standards. If you try and call somebody out on stuff, you're branded this, that, or the other. I get news for everybody that's watching. The standards are a good thing. Remember them, because a lot of people don't have them.
You have
now
condos.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
Well, I was just going to say, to keep things positive, it's usually just a couple bad apples in the community that kind of ruin it. They can't play nice in the sandbox together. But I have to say that for every kind of bad actor or negativity, there's also owners that are just so appreciative, where you leave meetings and they're like, thank you so much. Or like even to the vendors, where it's like, you guys did such a great job. We're going to recommend you. Wow, you really did so much good for us. So I think a big message too is, man, bringing each other up and a compliment really goes a long way.
It does. Yes,
absolutely. It does. Yeah. So there's a neighborhood, or it was a condominium, no pets, right? And so I was talking to somebody in the industry, and they said, "Oh, we really want to live in that condo, but we've got documents to say our dog is not a normal dog. It makes me feel better dog.
Service animal or something,
it's
right?
a service dog.
Emotional support.
I go,
yeah.
Don't move there. This building was designed to not have pets. Could be allergies. Could be fear when you were a kid. I was attacked by a Siamese cat when I was a kid. I still have bad dreams. Whatever it is, there's a million other condos to live in. But this person wanted to sit there and come and fight before they move in. It's like, use common sense.
But that's what we're doing. You know what I see now, and it's a shame because you're spoiling it for everyone else. So a big one now, because it is that fair housing discrimination claim. So what we're seeing now are people wanting to install hot tubs and above ground pools, claiming that they need it for physical therapy. They don't even have a disability. Like they're not even like in a wheelchair or anything.
It's a mental disability.
So, and it's like, so then it's hard because you have to ask like that. And we're doing it. We're asking the uncomfortable questions, but the emotional support animal, I teach a whole class on it. That was a whole thing. That was getting out of control because Delta had an incident where there was an emotional support dog, and the dog was so aggressive, he caused 95 stitches to the guys next to him's face, and they had to remove the entire seat. It was covered in so much blood. And it's like, okay, that's when we finally took a stance and said, this is unacceptable. You know what I mean? But
Those
like
chihuahuas are mean.
They are, but you know, and it's just like people not having control of their animals. It's just we're trying to cut corners, and that's unfortunate too. And then for the people that really do have the disabilities where we want to accommodate them, it's like you're watering down what they're claiming just so that you can bring girls home and have a cool spa. Like, come on. Like,
sounds like college.
In South Florida.
I mean, I appreciate the game, buddy, but not with my clients.
People, and it might happen everywhere, but in South Florida, we have these people that have the handicap placards, and there's no way they're handicapped, and it just infuriates me. I had a friend that when he was 19 was in a car accident and lost the use of his legs. He drove. This guy drove a boat, drove his car. This guy was strong. He would pull that wheelchair out of the back seat in a 2-door car. He drove a Thunderbird, really nice car. And he'd pull it out and then he'd get himself on it. He needed the space of a handicap. Otherwise, this guy was the least handicapped person I ever knew, but he truly was. He had no use of his legs. And people would park in spaces.
Now you're starting to hear people that are not even protected classes pursuant to the Constitution. So like, you'll get one guy that wanted this parking space and he always took the disabled parking space just because he was a veteran. And immediately I'm like, oh, thank you for your service. My dad was a fighter pilot in the Navy, lieutenant. Thank you for your service. Moving on. This is completely irrelevant to what we're talking about.
Right.
So now you can have like veterans spoiling the cart for other people. Because if you're a true military vet, you're not bragging about it and you're not using it to your advantage. My dad always said, when we would go to like a bar and my dad would hear someone come in and be really braggy about it, he's like, rule number 1, that person didn't do crap in the military, because they wouldn't be bragging and leading with it, you know? Right. And so it's just like, why I wish people, it's just unfortunate that they're kind of like grasping at straws. Like, I have anxiety, I have this, I have that. And I'm not trying to diminish what you have, but then again, don't live in an HOA. You know,
right? Yeah,
that'll solve.
Have your hot tub and have your
don't park in handicap spaces unless you're truly handicapped.
And we'll do whatever you want. Paint your house pink. I don't care.
Yeah. Hey, listen. Once again, South Florida pink houses are very popular. So.
Are they?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh well, yeah, because of like the Miami. Well, like Don Cesar, St. Pete. Yeah, no, I get that. Like Miami. Oh, pink.
I think it's from the flamingo is where it comes from, but whatever.
Oh, okay. All the shrimp. All the shrimp they eat.
Oh my goodness. And time has flown. But we're past time, but listen, give us one more good story, because I tell you, every week we get a better guest. Give us one more story, because I can listen to you all day.
Oh, I have a good one. So during COVID, it was going on, and there was actually a situation where an owner kicked out their 16-year-old kid, but he didn't have anywhere to go because it was COVID. So he pitched a tent in the backyard and lived there permanently. And the association's like, we can't have a kid living in the backyard in a tent. And I was like, let me guess, he's throwing rager parties too. They're like, oh yeah, there's like a rave like every night out of this kid's tent in the backyard that everyone can see in plain sight, and it's not appropriate because it doesn't go along with the aesthetic, and it's creating noise issues. And I was like, I want to meet that guy. I want to.
So you were partying with him the next weekend.
That's great.
So I had to evict him from his tent. I don't know. It was weird.
Sir, we're serving notice. It doesn't end. And we always say somebody should write a book. That book would be huge. But
no, they want to start a sitcom. So people are talking about it in the industry that they really want to write a pilot.
Right.
That's like The Office, but it's condo HOA.
I have mentioned that so many times too, and I think it could be brilliant. I don't know what it would do with my regular business, because people go, wait a second, I know that story. That was our place. But
yeah, exactly.
It really would. Who couldn't relate to it? I mean, so many millions of people in the country. But and maybe it'd wake it up. Maybe it would actually, if we made it funny but educational, sort of like the Wayne's World and Kelly 50th episode. That's kind of our goal, is to kind of like shine a light, make the world a little better place. And wow, I think the sitcom would work. Unfortunately, they're on strike right now, so I think maybe we should write it. We could star in it. I mean, come on. I can be the old cranky guy next door. Oh my God. So any closing thoughts?
No,
Other than today
yeah.
we are sponsored by Rockin Wellness, and of course, every week, Callaway Golf. You think that somebody would send me some free golf balls? Just reaching out. But
Just planting the seed.
we have to remember who's paying the bills for the show. We have fake sponsors, just so you know. Nobody gives us a dime. It's all for fun and all for to bring on great people like you. And we're gonna have to bring you back on if Wayne approves, because Wayne approves all guests. I have no control of the show because it's called
I tell you what,
World.
I've been, if I had a nickel for every time I saw Dara and, hey, gotta have you on, gotta have you on, gotta have you on, I guess my persistence did pay off, Dara, and you were an absolute home run, just like I knew you would be. Your personality always comes shining through. I really enjoyed having you on, and I know Kelly did, and I appreciate you coming on the big 5-0 episode. Appreciate you.
Wayne. I love having you in the industry, and I'm excited to see you guys at the next event.
Yeah,
well, we
definitely.
South Florida
sure.
like to extend your law practice an invitation to come hang with the big boys.
I'll hang. I won't represent.
I love it.
I don't want to be responsible for anything down there.
Wow, now you sound like a homeowner.
Right.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, thanks again. You guys have a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll see you next week for the 51st episode, and then the big first annual party, and that's going to be a doozy. What's a doozy?
Awesome.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Have a great day.